You didn't think I was done with making coconut yogurt quite yet, did you? I've got some more to try. This one is a total experiment. So we'll see how it goes. I have tried contacting this company and haven't been able to get any really information about how to make the yogurt the best way possible. The specific product that I'm using is called Mega Sporebiotic, and it is an American product, which is extremely expensive to get here in Canada. We have to pay, of course, the high exchange rate, as the Canadian dollar isn't worth much right now, and also a large amount of shipping, and then duty on top of that. And who knows, soon there might be tariffs as well. So it is insanely expensive, and it's also an extremely high potency probiotic that was prescribed for me by a functional medicine doctor. And although I can't take huge doses of it, I have been using it for over a year now and have found it useful. It definitely does help my digestion. So what's really helpful and interesting about spore probiotics is that the spores stay in your digestive system for much longer than a regular probiotic would. So you'll find again here I am using the frother to help get the agar powder mixed in really well. You saw that at the beginning I was just using yet another single teaspoon of agar powder, which is a good thickener. And the reason that I have decided to go ahead and just try this is because I know, as I've done in my other videos, I'm following, at least loosely, Dr. Davis's methods that he has been writing about and interviewing about lots all over YouTube. And one of the things that he recommends is B coagulans, which the Megasporebiotic has in it. And I believe the B subtilis is another one that he mentions, and that's in there too. So I have to look more into what the rest of them are as far as what he suggests. But it's quite an interesting group of probiotics, and I am hopeful that it does make a really good coconut yogurt, because it will go a lot farther that way, and hopefully will do well in my system as well. And since I already know that I can tolerate it, I'm hoping it will be really great. Now, because I have found inulin as a problem for me, I'm not going to bother including it here. I'm also not adding sugar in because sugar is a problem for me. And from making other yogurts with coconut milk, I haven't needed those things in order to make a really nice yogurt. So even though that is what he recommends, and it probably does cause the probiotic to grow a lot more, there's only so much I can do. So this is my version of it. From there, yet again, I am keeping a close eye on this, and it's interesting, even though it's bubbling here, it's not actually boiling. It's just kind of how the coconut yogurt handles heat. So I'm not using super high heat. I'm just trying to get it up really nicely and not boil over like it did in a previous video, and get it up to hot enough to kill off the things we want to kill off, and also to get the agar balanced in there really well. So it's nice and mixed, and it's going to help thicken it up nicely. So at this point, I'm learning as I go, and now I am actually checking my temperature as it's heating up so that I can see where we are at, because it is difficult to tell when it's actually hit that 180 degrees Fahrenheit that we're looking for. So that seemed to be helpful, just to check things out. And of course I also have to keep stirring it, and also just pulling the thermometer off of the base a little bit so that I'm getting a sense of the actual liquid and not just the base right on the burner. And there's what the bottle looks like when you order it. So that seemed to work well, and actually this time I would say that it went faster for me than the other yogurts that I've made so far, just because I'm kind of getting the hang of how to do this all in the right order. You can see I've already got the pot of cold water there waiting for it to be put in right away when the boiling is good and done, and that helps it to just speed up the cooling process before we put the probiotic in. So once we've got a good boil going, then we'll just stick it in the pot and let it sit and keep watching that temperature. And I've got the thermometer there set to beep at me when it gets close to being done. So I did need to stir it a few more times just to make sure I was really getting down to the right temperature, because I don't know what temperature this probiotic can handle. It might do well fine at 110 or 112 or something like that, like a standard yogurt maker, or it might not. So I'm just going to stick with the same format that Dr. Davis recommends for the other ones, including L-reuteri, and basically try to keep it down in the low hundreds. And now that we are down to the temperature that I want, which is in the low hundreds, it doesn't have to be all the way down to 100. I think 104 was good enough. I decided to use just one pill because it has a total of 4 billion CFU, which is a pretty good amount. And these are very strong pills. Like I said, I haven't even gotten to the point where I could take a whole pill in a day. I got close, but not quite there. And that's actually quite a bit lower than they recommend. They want you to work up to having 2 of those a day, which is, of course, first of all, insanely expensive for me as a Canadian, and for anyone. It's a very expensive probiotic. And also, it's just not realistic for my gut. It's just too delicate for that kind of thing. So maybe one day, hopefully. And I'm hoping the yogurt will help me move in that direction. That would be really nice. So here we are, just putting in one pill and giving it a thorough stir around. It did not soak in quite as nicely as I'd hoped, so I have to kind of work it in very carefully there. I did not use the frother this time. If you've watched my other videos, you've seen me do that, but this time I chose not to. I'm just doing it very gently, and hopefully it is enough to get it completely mixed in really well. And then from there, I'm just pouring that into the same container again as I've used previously, and then into the Ultimate Probiotic Yogurt Maker with the skewers underneath again, just to give it a little bit of a lift off of the burner, and then set it for 99 degrees and 36 hours, and off it goes. Now, looking at the final product here, I will say that I ended up making it for 37 hours instead of 36, just because of how it worked out time-wise for when I was able to actually get it out of the yogurt maker. So this is what we ended up with. It looks good, and the texture is great. The smell was not ideal. It was okay. Obviously, there's nothing growing on the surface or anything like that. And then I did try just a little bite of it, and well, it's definitely my least favorite of all the yogurts I've made so far. It's a little bit tart, but it's also, I don't know if cheesy is quite the right word. I know that can happen with these longer term yogurts. It can have kind of a cheesy taste for the first batch. So I'm assuming that's what it is. It's not ideal. I don't really like the taste of it. However, I will say that my gut was in great shape for the whole day, which might be because of this yogurt mixed with the L-reuteri as well, which I also had later in the day. Again, just a small amount because I have to be very cautious about how much I'm eating. In fact, let me go a step further and tell you that over the course of the next week or so, as I tried to have a little bit of this yogurt every day, it got a little bit stronger and a little bit stronger. And the word that comes to mind for me when I try to eat it, just a little bit of it, is, sorry to say, but vomit. Yeah, it kind of tastes like vomit. It's gross. It's not making me sick. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It just tastes kind of really gross. So, however, taking this along with the L-reuteri and the old yogurt that I used to make, I've actually added that back into the mix as well. Those three together seem to be doing really great things for my gut, so I am continuing to have it. And what's really nice is both this yogurt and the L-reuteri, when I mix them in with my old regular yogurt, which is still coconut yogurt, by the way, then the flavor's great. It kind of just kind of dilutes the flavor enough so that you don't really taste the stronger, newer yogurts that I'm trying out. So this might work out really nicely in the end. It was kind of weird, and I definitely want to remake this a little bit differently in the future and see if I can get it tasting nice on its own. But in the meantime, we found a way to work with it, so I'm very happy with that. So we'll kind of tentatively call this a success.